We are live. You already know who it is. My name is Mike Kyle, aka the Fantasy Vulture. I have over a decade worth of fantasy football experience, and I've continuously competed for fantasy championships over the course of the past 6 seasons. Let's make it 7 in 2020. But enough of me. I'm here for you. On today's episode of the FD Show, we are going to continue our Week 12 game recaps, breaking down every single Week 12 matchups, all through the lens of fantasy football. Up next, the Chicago Bears taking on the Green Bay Packers. So if you're excited for this game recap, be sure to hit that like button down below, like an open receiver downfield. Also, smash that subscribe button like a power running back up the middle so you never miss a video from me. And last but not least, you can follow me on all social media platforms at FFVulture. Let's just dive right in between the Bears and the Packers, shall we? Green Bay defeats Chicago by a final score of 41-25. The Packers improved to 8-3 on the season, and Chicago's downslide continues after their 3-0 start. They are now 5-6. Mitch Trubisky was the starting quarterback in this game for the first time since Week 3. He was 26 of 46 for 242 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 3 turnovers as well. Not the best performance from Mitch, but actually, he didn't hurt you if you had to start him for fantasy purposes. Yes, he did have 3 turnovers. Yes, he was not accurate throwing the ball, but he finished the day ultimately with 16 fantasy points. If you started him, it worked out pretty well for you. David Montgomery got into the end zone very late in the game. We love garbage time around here. Montgomery had 11 carries, caught 5 of 6 targets for 143 yards. And that touchdown, he was actually carving up the Packers defense, and that's one of the things that we know throughout the course of the year is the Packers cannot stop the run, and they couldn't even stop David Montgomery. And then lastly for Chicago, Allen Robinson had 13 targets, caught 8 of them for 74 yards and 2 touchdowns. More on him in just a little bit. Going over to the Packers now, Aaron Rodgers. What more can you say in what he's been doing throughout the course of this season? I believe the stat that I saw was he's on pace for a career-high 49 touchdowns, and he's 36, 37 years old. The tweets were flying around about Jordan Love and how they set that second-round pick on fire because Rodgers clearly still has it in him, and it looks like he might not lose it anytime soon. Rodgers was 21 of 29 for 211 yards and 4 touchdowns. Jamal Williams got into the end zone as well, 17 carries, 73 yards, and a score. Davante Adams, 9 targets, 6 receptions, 61 yards, and a touchdown. And Robert Tonyan, 5 targets, 5 receptions, 67 total yards, and a score. Also important to note here that Aaron Jones has scored 15 or less fantasy points in his last 5 games. We're going to talk about that in just a moment as well. Let's go back to Chicago because we have a few things that I want to talk about here. The first being David Montgomery. If you guys recall from the preview for Week 12, I was really concerned about what I wanted to do with David Montgomery going forward. Coming off of a concussion, he's been getting a lot of the pass catching work. This game script did not bode well for him, but I think that's the interesting thing here is even in a bad game script, Montgomery was still involved in the pass game, which is one of the reasons why I said I think you should play him. But David Montgomery is not a guy who has been able to consistently get it done. You're looking at his game log, and it's numbers just above double digits, a bit below, and he hasn't been producing up to the volume that he has. That's a very, very weird thing that's happened throughout the course of his career so far, where the volume's been there, but the production has not been. But going forward through the rest of the year, and this kind of just goes for the Bears as a whole on offense, Detroit, Houston, Minnesota, Jacksonville, Green Bay again. The Bears' schedule going forward is absolute cake. And that feels very, very weird to say in an offense that we don't particularly love by any means, but it is just something to keep an eye on if you have Allen Robinson like I do, if you have David Montgomery, if you are in a spot where you have to start Mitch Trubisky or something of that nature. Hopefully you don't. Darnell Mooney had 9 targets in this game, wide receiver. If you need a spot start for Jimmy Graham down the line. The Bears' schedule for the rest of the season is green down the board, right? We were talking about this in the Week 12 mega recap, where there are just some schedules that it's green, and Chicago has one of them. So I'm really excited about Montgomery and Allen Robinson specifically going forward. but I'm even more excited about Allen Robinson because he has Mitch Trubisky as his quarterback. And this was something that I was really concerned about for Robinson as we approach the fantasy playoffs, because if you look at his game log, more so in standard formats, which is the format that I have him in, but even still, like even throughout the course of this year, even in half point, he hasn't been getting it done. He's had a few really good games, but everything else has been highly disappointing, and it's just largely because this team doesn't have a quarterback that can consistently get him the ball. But if there's one thing I know, it's that Mitch Trubisky hyper targets wide receivers, and that wide receiver is going to be Allen Robinson. And I know that Mitch Trubisky has the ability to extend drives in a way that Nick Foles can't. And that being more so athleticism more than anything. Mitch being this somewhat of a mobile quarterback, somewhat of an athletic quarterback, can scramble for first downs as opposed to Foles. And Foles, honestly, in my opinion, is just a worse quarterback than Mitch Trubisky is. I don't know if that's a hot take or anything like that, but if you've watched what the Bears have done offensively when Nick Foles has been active since week 4, it hasn't been pretty. They haven't been able to move the ball at all. Allen Robinson, the targets, and same thing kind of goes for Mitch here, but like the targets that he has thrown his way are not catchable. But I just know that with Mitch Trubisky, I have more confidence in Allen Robinson going forward. And it was going to be one of those things where if Nick Foles is the starter going forward, and we don't know, it looks like that Mitch is likely going to start versus Detroit next week, in the fantasy playoffs, you are going to have to make that decision of, do I start Allen Robinson with Nick Foles at quarterback versus terrible defenses, or do I look to go somewhere else? So having Mitch Trubisky in over Foles gives me more confidence in Allen Robinson going forward, on top of the fact that their schedule is so juicy the rest of the way. So Allen Robinson, I was actually going to make a whole video on this. Allen Robinson is safe as long as Mitch Trubisky is the starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears. Montgomery, he's a guy who I have more confidence in going forward because of that schedule. And let's talk about the Packers real quick. Aaron Rodgers is great. Alan Lazard actually got into the end zone as well. So just take a quick little look to see if he's on the waiver wire going forward. Because if you look at their schedule rest of season, they got Philadelphia next week, Detroit, Carolina, Tennessee, and then Chicago again. So that's pretty much 4 really good matchups in a row for Green Bay. We just saw DK Metcalf torch that Eagles secondary, and I think, guys like Davante Adams, Alan Lazard, Robert Tonyan can do the exact same thing with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. So just take a look to see if Lazard is there. Obviously, Adams is great. Robert Tonyan is also great, but I want to talk about Aaron Jones here. I got off the Aaron Jones ship just in time. I felt it coming, and it was one of the things where I made a video on this channel talking about why I wanted to trade Aaron Jones. The regression that we all thought was coming definitely happened. Last year, I think it was 19 touchdowns. This year, I think he has, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So he's at 8, and like that. Look, that's still an absolutely respectable number. But you have to understand that what Aaron Jones did last year was unsustainable. He was a touchdown machine, and we just know in general he's just in a timeshare with Jamal Williams. And to the fact that he was that hyper efficient last year on 55% of the snaps, it was improbable that he could repeat that. And you're looking at the results of it right now. So going back to week 6, and in week 7 and 8 he did not play because of that calf injury. But since week 6, so we got 5 games here, right? 5 games here. 11.6, 10.4, 11, 15.1, and 9.5. It's just the reality of the situation for Aaron Jones. He has not been great this year. If you look at his touches, he's still only getting about 14 a game just in terms of carries, and then obviously he is being used in the pass game as well. His target's still consistently around that 5-6 range, which is nice. But you just have to understand that part of the Aaron Jones experience is that you're going to get games where Jamal Williams outperforms him. You're going to get games where Aaron Rodgers is going to throw for 4 touchdowns and they don't need him in that role. But I think that's the thing that's kind of crazy about this Packers offense right now, is that if you look at Jamal Williams, right? I just read off Aaron Jones' last 3 games. Jamal Williams' last 3 games, 7, 8, 13.3. Jamal Williams is just stealing so much work from Aaron Jones. He's still, in this game versus Chicago, 17 carries. Aaron Jones had what? 17 carries. Like it's such a split down the line. Yes, the snap percentages may not indicate that, but if you look at the production, it absolutely is split right now, and it's just something that stinks if you are the Aaron Jones owner because you were expecting so much more. And I think it actually also stinks because Aaron Jones is in a contract year. So for him, I know he can't be happy about this either. But again, that schedule in 14, 15, and 16 is Detroit, Carolina, Tennessee, and I don't know if there's a better running back with a better schedule than Aaron Jones in this. Besides, I think Derrick Henry, who has like Jacksonville, Detroit, and then Green Bay himself. But I think that's going to do it. I don't have much else here. Just that, with Aaron Jones, just kind of be patient. Better days are coming, but understand this is fully part of the Aaron Jones experience as somebody who's gone through it multiple times throughout the course of his very, very short career. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button down below, like an open receiver downfield. Also, smash that subscribe button like a power running back up the middle so you never miss a video from me. Last but not least, you can follow me on all social media platforms at FFVulture. And remember, people come and go, but fantasy championships are forever, and I will see you in the next video.